Hello and welcome to the Build a Soil YouTube channel. This is the Family Farms edition and it's our first episode. We've discussed doing this before, we've kind of threatened it in part of our other series, but we're gonna follow through. And it's the beginning of the season. It's a great time to take advantage of showing you from scratch where we start to start off the entire year. It's 2022. We'd like to show you the greenhouse, the acreage, all the processes because there's so much detail involved. So this is my wife, Gwen.
We're going to show you how we grow here in beautiful Western Colorado. This is our Rymel greenhouse. It's 144 feet by 30 feet. We have automated roll-up sides, exhaust fans and heaters, which allows us to grow all winter long. We set our temps and our humidity and the rest is controlled from there. Right now we're keeping it at 38 degrees because it's the winter time. It's February. It gets really cold at night. So we grow salad mix. We're able to keep it going with just those low temps and not using too much heat throughout the winter time. Soon we're going to be transitioning from our winter crops to our summer crops, which means we're gonna jam pack the greenhouse full of tomatoes, and then we start to heat it a little more, and as the season goes on, Mother Nature does that for us. If you look around here, we have salad mix, which we grow all winter long for local restaurants. That's one of our biggest passions here at Build a Soil Family Farms, is being able to share with the community all the healthy food that we grow. Like I said, we keep it at 38 degrees. We water it once a week maybe, because in the winter time we're not getting as much sun, it's not as much heat, and so everything is kind of stagnant. But as the season goes on, we get to watch it evolve and change. In the greenhouse here we have, hang on, how many beds do we have? We have 16 beds. They're 50 feet long.
The full size, right?
30 inches wide, which is pretty standard for all the tools that we use around here on the farm. Because we cut off part of our greenhouse to use for a washing station, and we have the ability to pack vegetables for people. And so we ended up with some beds here in the back that are only 9 feet long, and we actually use those all winter long to kind of test out different things that we may be able to grow. And then we maximize our space here with our salad mix.
We might get to a point where we can show you some of the behind the scenes as well, where we use a software that tracks the number of beds that we have, the number of bed feet. And in the beginning, when you haven't done this before, it really helps to know, hey, what are other people yielding per row foot, per bed foot? What should I expect? How long should it take?
And that takes years. It doesn't go happen instantly, right? Like you don't know that before you get started.
But I've noticed a couple of things about how her process and making the beds, from what we've learned, into owning it completely, where she's got her system with the seeder and the way she waters it, and you get really uniform germination. And so that's part of the experience that we want to try and share with you is, what's the difference between the vegetable 10 by 10, where it's kind of like, hey, this is for my kitchen, I grow whatever I want, versus I need to harvest 30 to 40 pounds out of this bed every 4 weeks, or I'm not going to be able to pay for the labor. So commercial production is very, very different from home scale. And I think that both of them have lessons to teach each other. And whether you care more about commercial or just growing for your patio, for your kitchen, we'd like to show you a bit of both. And so she's an expert in the vegetables, expert in the farming stuff. You've seen my other YouTube series and what I normally teach. And so I think together we're going to be able to really share some great information with you.
One of the things I'm really excited to share with everybody too is some of those little things that we've had to learn along the way, the hard way. And so if there's maybe one tip or one trick that can help you at your home when it comes to watering, weeding, maybe seed spacing, who knows? I'm going to try to mention all the things that we struggle with, the things we've learned, the things that have been successful with you, so that you'll be able to maybe duplicate some of those things or avoid some of those things in your own garden.
So winter growing, we keep it at, she mentioned 38 degrees. When we first started, we were growing Claytonia, also known as miner's lettuce. We were also growing several different, like maybe 2 or 3 different salad mixes by now. We'd mix some of them together. We had tatsoi, which is like an Asian green, and this particular salad mix that she found, it's become a favorite, and the chefs have been using it locally. It keeps a really good health in the bag for a couple weeks at a time.
The colors are vibrant.
It's like genetics are a big part of this equation too. And I guess I never really understood how much choosing the right seed for your environment, for maybe what your end goal is, also translates. So,
and also finding companies that you trust, I think too, when you have good success rates with their products, it's like sometimes best just to stick with them. If you want to try something new, I tried something new last year, didn't work out that great for me. So I really feel like that if you find a company and something that you really enjoy growing, especially if you're a commercial grower, then you're able to duplicate that all the time. And then your chefs are happy, your customers are all happy. It works out really well for us.
yeah. I think on a commercial scale, it's kind of like life. Like anybody can show up and maybe do good one day, but it seems like from a farming perspective, to be disciplined, to be able to be duplicatable, and to be able to be timely, that's what leads to success on like the chef side. Who wants to have one good bag of lettuce a month when they make salads every week? So lots to share.
I wanted to mention that we started out with native soil here, and we haven't added a ton. We've added some old bags of soil that we had left over from Build a Soil. We've added a lot of Craft Blend, which is actually my favorite product over at Build a Soil. And we've amended the beds that way. And as we use our no-till system and we chop things down, we let things compost in the bed, which brings biology and life to our soil. So we've been able to, this is our third year here, we've been able to really turn the soil into something usable, make it easier on us when it comes to harvesting. It's just not hard-packed clay. I want to teach and show everybody how we've done that, because a lot of people don't have the best soil at home. And maybe you do have the time to spend taking a few years to get through it, but it's really rewarding when you have built your soil and you know what's in there, what you've grown in there, how alive it is, and you can maintain that and feel really good about the food that you eat afterwards. So right now it's wintertime. We've been growing our salad mix, but I'd love if you follow along our journey. I'm going to show you the 10 by 10 here soon, where we have all our seeds germinating. We'll be bringing them over here when it's warm enough. We start our seeds in a 10 by 10 next door, where we can control the environment a little better, because where we live in Colorado, it's very cold, and if we had to heat our greenhouse to germinate seeds, it would be really expensive and not very cost effective at all. We just are doing whatever we can to get the job done, and we were very lucky to be able to get a 10 by 10 Gorilla Grow tent from Gorilla Grow Tents. We'll show you that soon. As we go this year, we're going to be blowing up the greenhouse with tomatoes. We get them planted in the ground early so that we can have tomatoes before anybody else in town. We grow them all the way to the ceiling. You can see these rollers up here. We bring them down, attach them to the plant, and then we grow our plants all the way to the ceiling. It's like a jungle in here. It's really awesome. It's my favorite time of year. There's so much life. But with these rollers, we have the ability to, when they reach the top, bring them down, wrap them around these poles, bring them all the way back down the aisle, and it's really fun to watch the process, and we can get maximum yield out of our plants from beginning of the season all the way to the end of the season. So follow along with us and we'll show you how we do all that.
One of the things that I'm really excited about is when we started this, we had to learn from other people because we were just passionate about gardening, right? And so to turn it into a commercial operation, there was a lot of hard lessons learned. And I think that she's going to be really good at teaching you the nuances there, because there's lots of different seeding tools, there's different weeding tools, and there's a whole bunch of people that have worked here over the years to kind of get it to where it's at. And one of the first questions I get when we have locals come in is they're like, well, I have this spot on the farm and I'd like to turn it into soil. How do I build it up? And I think that people are really curious about that. So she touched on that. We're going to be sure to cover that. However, if we get to the point where this is financially feasible over the next few years, we'd like to have our own prop house with concrete and everything done right to start the seeds. Now that we've shown you the basics of the greenhouse in the beginning of the season, like the blank canvas, you can see from the very beginning what it looks like and how fast it transforms when the weather changes. We want to show you where the seeds are planted. And right now we're using the retail store to start the seeds because it's already heated. So let's walk over there and we'll show you right now. Okay, we're over here in the Build a Soil store now, and I want to show you some of the last trays that we have that are filling up the 10 by 10 for the season. We're going to do a few things this year. Some of these are going to go into the greenhouse. Some of them are going to be available for starts at the farmer's market here in our local store. If you want to come in and visit, we can show you this anytime. We're really transparent that way. Beyond that, some of these might even be on our website, and we're going to be shipping them in the mail. And so I'll let her show you the process.
Okay, so I'm going to seed these 18 cell trays today. There's many ways you can seed. Let me put it that way. You can use a dibble board. You can poke a hole with your finger. I have a little dibble pen is what they call it right here. Today I'm going to show you my Sharpie method because I just like the holes a little bit wider than this dibble, and so for my little tiny tomato seeds I don't really want to be dropping them so deep, but if the hole's not wide enough I'm not going to be able to get the seeds in there accurately. So I use my little Sharpie. I've done these three here and I'm going to show you how I do it. Really simple. I'm just going to poke a hole. I try to go a little bit more than a 1/4 inch deep because I'm going to pack them in. Whenever you buy a pack of seeds, whether it be it doesn't really matter where you get them. All of them are going to come with instructions on seed depth. And so that's going to be so that you don't plant your seed too deep and end up having really weird germination issues. There's many factors that play into germination, but if your seed is too deep or too shallow, that can have an effect on how the plant grows once it sprouts, or even if it sprouts at all. So today we're using Build-A-Soil Light. It's my favorite soil. Actually, last year we used it to germinate all our plants for the greenhouse. We had almost 100% germination, and I was super impressed. Compared to some other things that I've used before, seems to run out of nutrients very, very quickly, and I'm starting to have to feed right away. And so in this light soil, it did so well, and I was able to put really healthy starts into the ground. You know, I've showed you my Sharpie method. I'm going to show you real quick. Some people like to use a dibble board, which is one of the things I just mentioned. This one here we bought from a guy online. He makes them at home and made here in the United States. And this one's for a 50 cell tray. So I can just take it, I can put it on there, push it down, and it's gonna make the holes for you. But that way it makes it really quick for you to get all the holes into your tray so that you can just start seeding, depending on how many trays you have. For me, it was a lot. So this makes it a lot quicker.
Well, and if you've got to do tens of thousands, they've got cool vacuum
machines,
seeders.
yep.
They've got machines on a small scale. You can get a vacuum seeder that uses a shop vac and a special plastic tray that actually, using the vacuum pressure, pulls the seed into the actual designated tray size. You dump off the excess seed, you flip it upside down, and you release the vacuum, and it drops the seed right in the right spot. But for what we're doing, it seems like part of the Build-A-Soil way is, unless you really need to automate, getting some of that hand-to-hand connection with the soil, with the seeds. When you're doing a couple thousand, it's totally doable. When you're doing tens of thousands, it makes a lot of sense to start to automate. So depending on where you're at, even with that full 10 by 10, she did them all by hand. And now I feel like while she's watering them, she has that peace of mind knowing, yes, there's a seed there. Yes, I put it at the right depth. And now there's that confidence each time you water.
I've put a label on each tray because we have about 100 and something trays in there. It's really important that you label it exactly what you're putting in there and the date that you've put it on there. Sometimes I remember, oh, I'll never forget the day I planted the seed, but you do, you forget, and then you don't know how old your plants are. Here I have some purple bumblebee. These are cherry tomatoes from Johnny Seeds. As we talked about earlier, genetics are super important to me, and one of the companies I fell in love with and trusted along the way for my farm endeavors has been Johnny Seeds. They seem to never let me down. So tomato seeds are really small. I'm gonna go ahead and just put way more than I need in my hand. And if you read the back, it usually tells you how many seeds to put in per hole. I go for 1 or 2 depending on what I end up dropping in there. So reason being is sometimes you don't have perfect germination.
Now I've seen her do this. Not all of them will have 2, and a lot of times the 2 will germinate. But what'll happen is sometimes there'll be 1 cell that doesn't germinate. She'll go split up the 2, take the 1 and put it in the empty cell, and then we'll keep it at 100% germination. And part of the reason why is if you look on this pack, even though Johnny's is great, not every seed is perfect, and this is 88% on their germ test. We'll probably get better germination than that, right? But at the end of the day, understanding that and knowing the cost of your seed, like if we were at home growing some medicinal plants, sometimes the seed's so expensive, you can't just be putting 2 seeds per planting hole. And in that case, of course, just do 1 per and be very disciplined about where you put them and how you water them. But a lot of times, you can just start the seeds right in the soil like this. You're gonna see people that use like paper towels and they moisten them, or they use pre-soaking with a jar of water. These seeds and their hole, they're literally built by nature to pull that moisture in and actually wick it like a sponge if it's near there. So obviously you wanna keep the moisture right so it doesn't dry out and dehydrate, but they're gonna do most of the work for you. And I think that's part of the beauty, is starting it right in the soil, seeing that germination. Now, one thing to remember, nature is smart. It doesn't put all its eggs in one basket. So you're gonna see a variety of germination time frames. Some will germinate early and some will germinate a day or 2 or 3 days later.
So now that I've got all the seeds in each little individual hole, I've done it all by hand. I like to come through and cover up my seed, and kind of the way I think about it is tucking it into bed. You're just gonna kind of give it a little bit of pressure here so that they all, I feel like they have complete darkness, and any moisture that you put in there kind of stays there by the seed and helps it germinate.
One of the things about Build-A-Soil is we don't sterilize our soil. And so that means that you're gonna see some of this white, a lot of people call it mycelium growth. And essentially, it's just a good bacteria, and that's totally fine. If you see that, don't freak out. If it's white like that, we usually see it as highly beneficial. Some people at home will be like, whoa, what's that? Especially when they're using a really living soil for the first time. I do the same thing when I'm starting seeds, and I've noticed if I don't put that little bit of pressure and I go water and I'm not being careful, the seed can move around and it'll be germinated in a different part. And it seems like getting it tucked in like that keeps it so that when you do water gently, it stays right there in the center.
Sometimes when soil's really dry, it's hydrophobic, and it'll actually just push the water away from your intended watering spot. So we have some really cool products here at Build a Soil we like to use. A couple of the products I've used for watering in my seeds, this is my go-to. Rootwise microbes for helping with the soil and the roots make a connection to each other and start taking up any of the nutrients in the soil. Here we have aloe. People like to use aloe a lot when cloning, and I think it's really important when you're starting your seeds as well. This one I have not used until just now. I typically have used a product called Thermex. This J-plant speaker is Kuyaha extract powder. I didn't use all that much, but it was super water soluble, which I really liked because I was able to mix it in really well with the other products, and I use it for not only as a wetting agent, but to help emulsify some of the other products that I use.
I know she mentioned using the Rootwise and using the Kuyaha. She loves the Thermex 70. That's a yucca extract. It has a lot of the saponin, the foam in it. This is a food grade, the J-plant speaker product, and it's just a lot higher percentage of saponin. So you only need 1/8 of a teaspoon per gallon. It's really dry, so you can sprinkle a little bit more than that, and it'll help make sure that that dry soil takes the water right away. When you're starting seeds, we really want to get that connection in there. It's the best time, right when the seeds are about to germinate. And watering is important, so if you've got like a watering can at home, make sure it's a really fine nozzle. You don't want to just drown these. That's why we use a sprayer. It doesn't have to be this one. We carry these at buildasoil.com, but you can go just get a plastic one. The plastic ones break, and so we end up just using these around here, but really any way to slowly water like that so the seed doesn't move and you get really good results. Now that's that foam you're talking about.
It gives it time to soak in and absorb instead of just going down these little cracks on the side and all your water ends up in the bottom. And really we're just trying to get that seed some water so that it can germinate.
I realized that just because those are her favorite products and we like using them around here, that doesn't mean that you need any of these. Just some good potting soil, some good seeds, and regular water will be just fine. If your soil is a little bit dry like this and you don't have a wetting agent, you can always add moisture to it in like a tub. And don't overdo it. Just make sure that it sits there for like an hour, dig it around with your hands, and then it'll already be to a point where it absorbs moisture a little bit easier. That might help you. Alternatively, you can just go to the local garden store, buy whatever they have for a wetting agent. You can use like a drop of soap or something if you really don't have anything else, like maybe Dr. Bronner's or something. But our favorite, if we have the option, is to use the Rootwise and to use a wetting agent, and that Q is really, really good. Just a tiny bit goes a long way. I also feel like there's some other benefits to that stuff, but as always, you don't need this stuff. Plain water, vegetable seeds love water. Like you don't need anything special.
If you could tell, this didn't take me all that long. On a small scale or large scale, small scale, we're kind of in between. It doesn't take all that long if you're doing it by hand. You don't need any fancy machines or equipment. I was able to get, I think, 81 of these done on Friday, and that was like 1,300 seeds. They're all here in the 10 by 10. We're gonna show them to you shortly. So come on with me, and we're gonna put these in the tent. Ta-da! Okay, so I've been watching the humidity and temps today. Right now, it's pretty epic. It's 69% humidity and 89 degrees, which is awesome.
If you look around, these lights should look familiar if you've watched our other YouTube series. These are the Timber grow lights, which we really like. They're built in California. They've been not a partner with us, but we just enjoy working with each other. And as of recently, they decided to give us a couple of their newer lights. So we took some of the ones we've been using and we deconstructed it, which you can see, this is like the ribbing it comes on. And we literally zip tied these strips to their connection points and used them to do the racks in here, which I really believe in reutilization if possible, saves money. And it's keeping the warmth up. And now that we have the humidity, she mentioned, just in case we've got this little bit of a humidifier, we're not pulling a lot of air in and out of here yet since the plants aren't growing. If it gets too low in humidity now, this will kick on and make sure it stays nice in here, which, you know, you want to keep things right when you're germinating this many seeds. You don't want them to die.
When you're germinating seeds, you don't want your seeds going between really, really moist and really, really dry, because you'll get some that got more moisture than others, and then you'll have weird germination issues. The past few years, we've done multiple germination ways, and we got to use the tent last year, but not really have it dialed in. So I'm really excited to have this 10 by 10. Thank you so much, Gorilla Grow Tent, for providing this. There's gonna be tons of life in here soon. So thank you, Gorilla Grow Tent, for hooking us up with this tent. We're so grateful. So I know my husband said I'm expert, but I'm not. And so one of the things I'm gonna try to share with you along this entire journey is the lessons I've learned along the way. I just get better every time, and I try to learn from other people. So, feel free to always pop in and say what you're thinking. If you have suggestions, or maybe you found another way to do things and you see me struggling, please, don't hesitate to say something, because I am definitely not an expert, and I learn every single day from the plants. So, and it's really hot in here, so we're gonna step out.
All right, so a little bit of backstory, and I've never really shared it, but when we first met, which is a little over 6 years ago, we met right before Valentine's, so this is pretty cool for us. But when we first met, we had my garage, and it was where Build a Soil actually started. And she basically filled up the whole garage with racks like this, and seeds and root wise and lights hanging off of garage stuff. And so it's come full circle. And I wanted to start a tomato company before I started Build a Soil. It was called Montrose Tomato. And I was actually growing some of the Berkeley tie-dye that now she decided on her own, without me talking about it, to buy. So.
To grow this year at the Build a Soil Family Farms greenhouse. So I'm really excited. I feel really grateful to be where we are and be able to have the opportunity to grow, not only just growing, but growing vegetables. And I have a real passion for food and what you put in your body. So yeah, the pink Berkeley tie-dye, they are an heirloom tomato from way back. And Johnny Seeds just started carrying them this year. And I have this extreme passion for weird stuff in the garden. And for the local community to not get so weird, you kind of stick with some of the things that people are gonna wanna buy. But I have the opportunity this year to buy the pink Berkeley tie-dyes, and one other tomato I'm really excited about is the Captain Lucky. It's a, they call it psychedelic tomato, and it's all kinds of different colors on the inside and green on the outside. And the pink Berkeley tie-dye is a red tomato with green striping in it, and it looks like a tie-dye tomato. So
when you slice it, it tastes good. And they're from Wild Boar Farms. He's been doing breeding out there, and I think near Berkeley, that's probably why they're called that, for a really long time. So when I first found them, they weren't even available. And then she bought them, I think, through Johnny's.
Mm-hmm. Yep, through Johnny's.
And so part of that serendipity, I have the vegetable farm, and now you chose the Berkeley. So pretty cool.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Thanks so much for following us along from the greenhouse all the way into the retail store, where we can start our journey together. We've talked about doing this in the past, but it's clear. You guys really want to see this information. We really want to share it, but it's tough. Running a farm takes multiple employees, running the business, and we're going to slow down, dedicate ourselves to teaching some of this, making sure we get the discipline of being on camera regularly. So if you've been looking forward to this, we're going to go step by step through everything that we do here, an entire season at the Build a Soil Family Farms. Thank you so much for watching. Please put comments in here, ask questions. I know there's gonna be a lot of that, and we promise to be interactive. This is gonna cause a lot of the content. We wanna know what you're looking for, so put that in here. Thank you so much, and click the like button, subscribe. We'll see you on the next Build a Soil Family Farms episode.